What do you see happening if the audit does return results of significant interference in the election?
A constitutional crisis.
The first full forensic audit for the 2020 election began in Maricopa County, Arizona on April 23rd, despite overwhelming opposition. Democrats sent over 70 lawyers to try and stop it.
They keep claiming that this election was done perfectly and then there's no integrity violations, that it was done properly, but yet they don't want anybody to verify that they're correct. So obviously they're afraid of what we may find.
Even with the audit now in full swing, the attempts to obstruct it continue as ever.
There's always a danger. The Democrats have unlimited resources. They will try to bury you with big firms. They will try to bury you with paper.
Why is it important for America that this audit happens? And why are there such fierce attempts to try and stop it? Good evening and welcome to Wide Angle. I'm Brendan Fallon. A state official said on Wednesday, April 28th, that the Maricopa County election audit is on track. Former Arizona Secretary of State Ken Bennett said the count is picking up significantly every day. The site where the audit is happening is reserved until May 14th. Bennett is confident the process will be finished by then. As of April 28th, just shy of 100,000 ballots had been counted. Representative Fincham, welcome to Wide Angle. Why is this audit important to Arizona, and why is it important to America more broadly?
Well, I think from the perspective of Arizona, and I guess I will say this for all of America, we don't have a national election. We have 50 individual state elections and then a handful of territorial elections that also feed into the system for representation. Because of that, this goes way back in our history, that each state is sovereign. And because each state is sovereign, we all roll up our votes to the national system, in the federal system. And we have retained that authority over our elections since we were born as a nation. And because of that, we have also retained the right and the dominion and the authority to scrutinize our elections. Now, scrutiny of an election is something that is done from time to time. We even in Arizona, for example, we have provisions within our election system for a recount. If somebody says, well, I think I was cheated, I want to do a recount. Well, keep in mind, the recount idea was first brought into our election system when they were doing a hand count of ballots. The notion is that somebody might have not counted a ballot for one person, or a group of ballots might have been counted for another and improperly awarded. So to do a spot sample of just a few ballots on elections that are massive in nature now, so for example, Maricopa County, that's 2.1 million ballots. The idea of a hand count, that's a bit overwhelming when you consider 2.1 million sheets of paper that you have to go through and meticulously count them.
The audit of 2.1 million votes began on April 23rd. From the beginning, it's met with heavy opposition from the Democratic side. As commented on by former President Trump last week, Democrats sent 73 lawyers to challenge the audit. Despite its legal obstacles, it appears, at least for now, to be proceeding as planned. Before we continue, please remember to like the video and check your subscription status to our channel. Tonight we'll be looking at why this audit is important, why the opposition to it is so strong, and what we can expect to follow from the results it returns. In addition to speaking to Representative Fincham, I also spoke to State Senator Sonny Borrelli. Both have worked vehemently to see the audit go ahead. I also spoke to Alex Colladin, who is the lawyer for the lead auditing company, Cyber Ninjas. So Alex, how does the count that's being done for the audit differ from what was being done in November?
Well, what was being done in November is that an election was being conducted. So there were county officials counting votes to determine the results of an election. This is not that. What this is a forensic audit of an election. As you know, in Arizona, there were many lawsuits, some of which my firm was a part of, that alleged that there were certain improprieties, certain areas of illegal votes or votes that maybe should not have been cast that may have affected the results of the election or at least compromised the accuracy of the election. What this audit is an attempt to take all or at least most of the claims that were asserted in these various lawsuits and actually find out Is it true that we had manipulation of the machines, for instance? Is it true that there were fraudulent ballots submitted into the piles? And to answer those sorts of questions. And the Senate's goal with this audit is, again, not to change the results of any election, which this audit can't do, but rather to take the results of the investigation and use it to consider, one, do we need new election legislation in Arizona? And two, how should that new legislation be targeted and written?
This isn't just a high-level audit. This isn't a performance audit. This is a forensic audit, meaning we are going to look at each ballot and meticulously scrutinize the system, the machines, the software, the procedures, and of course the ballots, if we get access to the envelopes, which I don't know that that's assured, and any anomalies that we might see. That's a forensic audit. And it's not in an effort to overturn the election. That's where the left has got it all wrong. The Senate and the House both take very seriously our obligation to the voters to provide oversight of the election. That means if we find something amiss, it's our responsibility as the legislature to take that up and to craft public policy so that we can ensure that we have fraud-free elections and that those elections are free and fair, that the system is transparent, so that our voters can have confidence that when their vote was cast, their vote was counted.
As mentioned, Democratic opposition to this audit has been fierce. The legal force Democrats have brought to bear against the process has been overwhelming. Yet Judge Curry and his successor, Judge Martin, have allowed the audit to proceed. This is a major win for Republicans and quite possibly anyone interested in knowing whether the 2020 election results were valid. Not surprisingly, though, efforts to thwart the process are still heavily underway. It's been reported that a group of experts on voter security and administration have written a letter to the Department of Justice detailing their concerns about the audit. I'm just going to read a little bit of that letter now. The letter warns that ballots have been put in danger of being stolen, defaced, or irretrievably damaged. It says that they fail to ensure the physical security of ballots by keeping doors unlocked and allowing unauthorized persons to access the ballot storage facility. How would you respond to that?
It's simply not true. When I was representing the audit team, I spent at least 50 hours on site. There are armed guards there at all times. Access is strictly controlled. I've had times where I had trouble getting in. The ballots are stored in a very secured area under constant supervision, not just by background checked employees, but also by observers who are members of the public, also subject, as you said, to public monitoring of the video feeds under guard. These are just untrue allegations. There was an allegation that there was a security compromise before the audit commenced and before counting commenced. And regardless of the truth of that, since that time, a large amount of security has been added to the site. So the doors are always locked, the ballots are always secure.
It's also been alleged that cyber ninjas could be helping to canvass voters and also gather information on voters' history. What would you say to that?
Well, this is the most spurious and frankly, as a lawyer, concerning aspect of the lawsuit that the Democrats and Secretary Hobbs have filed. They well know that voter history is public record in Arizona. You as a journalist, I as a lawyer, a political party, a PAC, any of them could go. There's a link on Maricopa County's website. You fill out a form and you can request detailed voting history, and you are entitled to receive it as members of the public. So what the allegation essentially is this audit is utilizing data that's available to anyone.
To appreciate why the opposition to the audit is so strong, it's important to understand why Arizona state Republicans consider it necessary in the first place, and how they were able to get it off the ground. Arizona is one of the contested states of the 2020 election. The other states include Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. The Republican Party controls both the House and Senate of the Arizona state legislature. In mid-January, the Arizona state subpoenaed Maricopa County's election materials for a full judicial audit of the presidential election. Maricopa County refused to comply with the request. The lawsuit then went to court, where the Democrats asked the court to declare the subpoena illegal and unenforceable. On February 26th, the Maricopa County Superior Court judge, Timothy Thomason, ruled that the Arizona Senate had full legal authority to issue the subpoena. Under the state constitution, the Arizona state has the power to oversee elections. The judge thus said the Senate is entitled to obtain all election materials, including ballots, voting machines, and judicially audit them.
It comes down to the truth has no agenda. They're afraid of us finding out what the truth is. They keep claiming that this election was done perfectly, and then there's no integrity violations, that it was done properly, and everything that they have is truthful, but yet they don't want anybody to verify that they're correct. So obviously they're afraid of what we may find, and that's what's also troubling.
Now, if this audit does turn up inconsistencies, attention is naturally going to be drawn to other contested states. This could be why the Democratic Party is doing its best to stop this. There's many Americans who see their constitutional freedoms gravely endangered under the Biden administration. This would include the tens of millions who support former President Trump. For those, this audit is extremely timely and of crucial consequence, especially in light of what's currently unfolding in Washington, D.C. Just in the past few months, Democrats have launched the H.R. 1 bill, the infamous bill seeking universal mail-in ballots, banning of signature checks, and banning of questions about voters' nationality. Republican leaders have said this is unconstitutional. H.R. 1 is yet to be voted on by the Senate. In addition, Democrats are also heavily targeting Second Amendment rights. There are signs they'll try to pack the Supreme Court, and a bill that aims to grant Washington, D.C. statehood was recently passed in the House. While it has yet to be passed in the Senate, if the bill goes ahead, 3 more electoral votes, 2 senators plus 1 House representative, will be added. Republicans, on the other hand, have been working actively to curb these planned sweeping reforms. Ensuring election integrity is at the center of this effort. According to the Brennan Center for Justice at the New York University School of Law, there have been 361 restrictive voting bills introduced in 47 states as of March 24th. These are aimed at bringing together tighter scrutiny to voters' eligibility. Senator Borrelli, you were heavily involved in initiating the audit. What kind of obstacles did you come across?
Well, the major difficulty is getting the Maricopa County supervisors to actually cooperate with the state Senate to conduct a full forensic audit. And of course, we had numerous roadblocks of lawsuits and uncooperative elected officials that believed that they were a sovereign state amongst themselves, and they're not. And it took a court to finally rule that our subpoenas were legal and enforceable. And of course, then the logistics operation of setting up a forensic audit to be done off-site, because they did not want the audit to be done at the county site. So which means we had to find an off-site that would have been secure enough and big enough to count 2.1 million ballots, to be done properly and with full transparency so the whole world can watch. It's amazing how some of the pushback from the media that we've gotten is just mind-boggling, because we don't allow cameras or the media inside a polling center. We don't allow the media into when the ballots are being counted during an election, but yet they're screaming that they want transparency to actually have access to the floor where the ballots are being counted.
Once the audit was greenlighted in February, the Arizona Senate urgently began preparations. This included finding qualified firms to conduct the task. On March 18th, the Arizona Senate said it would audit all 2.1 million Maricopa County ballots. It is also inspecting the voting machines, the machines that scan the ballots. This includes investigating the machines for possible IT vulnerabilities, such as being hacked or accessed via the internet. On March 31st, the Arizona Senate said that they had 4 companies, including the Florida-based Cyber Ninjas. Cyber Ninjas is leading the other companies in the audit. Certain companies are checking ballots, while others are checking voting machines. Results will be released to the public within 60 days, which means roughly by late June. Another major barrier to the audit presented on April 22nd. Democrats filed an injunction with the Maricopa County Court. The next morning, Judge Christopher Curry paused the audit. The pause was supposed to last until Monday, April 26th, with the possibility of it being extended further. This would have set a lot of Republicans on edge, not to mention those in general wanting to know if their elections can be trusted. However, tensions were eased when Judge Curry made the pause conditional on Democrats putting up a $1 million bond. It was argued that if the audit is suspended or cancelled altogether, then a good deal of money, if not all the money that had been spent, would be lost. Costs include hiring private companies and shipping of the ballots. Democrats refused to put up the $1 million, so the audit moved forward. Of course, the Democrats have their fair share of millionaires, not to mention billionaires, in their ranks. Pulling together $1 million certainly wouldn't be that much of a stretch, especially if it helps put the kibosh on what could be some rather inconvenient audit results. They declined to put the money up because they understood that the audit was likely to proceed either way. Judge Khoury made it clear he'd agreed to the initial pause just to confirm measures are in place to prevent leakage of confidential data. On Monday, April 26th, Judge Khoury recused himself from the case. This presented another possible obstacle to the audit. It meant that another judge could take over who was less supportive of the audit proceeding. As required by law, Judge Khoury recused himself when he learned that an attorney with whom he had had a prior working relationship had joined the case. As it turned out, the succeeding judge, Superior Court Judge Daniel Martin, decided not to halt the audit in line with the Democrats' lawsuit. As such, the audit is now in full swing. This brings us to the next question. What happens if the audit, come June, does show that the election was interfered with?
Well, if there's federal or state crimes that were violated, we will take that evidence and turn it over to the proper authorities, law enforcement, the Attorney General for state crimes, and maybe possibly even to the federal side if there were federal crimes violated in election law. We will turn that evidence over to the appropriate authorities because they have prosecutional authority, we don't.
You've said that the aim of this isn't to overturn the election, but if evidence comes forth of significant interference in the election, then what would happen?
A constitutional crisis, quite frankly. I'm very proud that the Senate has gone into this process without any preconceived notion. They want to know what happened. What happened in the election? If there was something untoward, we need to know what that is. Now, to the question of what happens if we find something that would amount to a significant shift, that votes would go from one individual to another, or votes would be confirmed as improper, whatever that might be, there are a couple of eventualities. One is the House and Senate do nothing, which I'm pretty sure if there is evidence that the wrong guy was awarded our electoral college votes, or electors, I'm sorry, or if, for example, the Senate candidate was not the winner, now we've got a situation where the Senate and the House are going to have to take that up. I'm pretty sure that the voters are not going to be happy about that. Some are going to be unhappy that we would even approach the issue. And by the way, if we find that nothing was amiss, there's going to be probably a subset of people that are not going to believe that nothing was amiss. But we're looking for proof, and that's the issue. So the potential for the House and Senate to take action, for example, to reclaim our electors.
Alex Colladon says that the initial defeat of the Democrats' lawsuit gives the audit a good chance of running its course now. That's not to say, however, that the process is entirely out of danger. Alex, they're saying that the Democrats want to paper the audit to death, to drag it out as long as possible. Is there still a danger of this, and how so?
There's always a danger. The Democrats have unlimited resources. Secretary of State Katie Hobbs has gotten involved in the litigation, and she has, of course, the full resources of the state of Arizona to pay her lawyers. And that is, in my experience, having litigated these sorts of cases many times, and especially over the past year, that's simply the Democrats' MO. They will try to bury you with big firms. They will try to bury you with paper and just try to overwhelm you because it's hard for them to win on the merits. And I think they know that.
And how do you counter that?
Well, you have to focus the courts on what's important, right? The facts and the law, that the Senate has immunity, that very, very strong policies and procedures are in place to make sure that voters are being protected, and hope that the judge will see through all the chaff and focus on what's reasonable. And the judge yesterday did exactly that, and we're so happy to see it.
We all want to see this brought to a conclusion. And more importantly, we want to see it done well, not fast. It's not going to be cheap. I would not be at all surprised if this runs in excess of the $2 million that was originally projected. But the people of Arizona are entitled to know what, if anything, happened. And if nothing happened, I think it will still be money well spent because we are going to have some process learning out of that so that we can ensure that we have free and fair elections.
Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, another contested state, the House of Representatives has been authorized to investigate the 2020 election. Wisconsin's state legislature is dominated by the Republican Party. Although opposed by the Democrats, the Republicans have organized an investigative committee in Wisconsin with the power to issue subpoenas. At the same time, Michigan's GOP-led legislature introduced bills last month to amend state voting laws. For one, they would require new voters to show their valid IDs. The proposed laws would prohibit prepaid absentee envelopes. Absentee envelopes currently have a postage stamp affixed. You just need to sign the ballot and throw it in the drop box. This can open up opportunities for interference. Under the proposed laws, you'd have to affix the postage stamp by yourself and mail it out. They would also limit the number of absentee drop boxes and bar the Secretary of State from sending an absentee ballot unless it's requested. During the 2020 election, some states used a universal mail-in ballot. Whether you wanted to vote on the spot or not, you were sent your ballot via mail in advance. Now, Michigan has banned this practice as well. So many Republicans in these contested states appear to be stepping up to the plate and pushing hard for the changes they believe are needed to raise election integrity. This has been our look at the Maricopa County 2020 election audit and efforts in other states to ensure election integrity. If you're still with us, then clearly we've slipped under YouTube's Big Brother algorithms. Please like the video and subscribe to our channel. You can also share the video to help us get the facts out. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.